Week 4 of the NFL closes out tonight with the Giants and the Vikings. We'll preview that game with KC Joyner. I'm really interested in tonight's game, but KC, Week 4. If we learned anything about Week 4, it is that we cannot learn anything about this league.
Isn't it incredible? You wouldn't expect any of the things that happened, or a lot of things that happened yesterday, to happen the way they do. I mean, even Pittsburgh last night. I mean, that game. Hey, Kansas City, Pittsburgh. I would have expected maybe Kansas City's defense to show up or play well. It's 29-0 at halftime. I mean, the game. Pittsburgh just. But, compared to how they're looking at Philadelphia, it's like, wow, this is Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, so what are the adjustments that Pittsburgh made? I mean, is it just that, matchup problem? Because that's what I find so interesting, how you can't take anything you saw from the week before and translate that into what's going to happen the next week. Like, Philadelphia whips Pittsburgh, then Pittsburgh goes and whips the Chiefs. What did the Steelers recognize or do better that just turned them into a dominating team again last night, that the week before they looked like a low-level team?
I think against Philadelphia, just what I saw off of tape there and just from having watched the game last night, I think what they did against Philadelphia said, we're going to try and play some smash-mouth football. We're just going to try and beat Philadelphia into submission. And last night they said, look, we're not worried about beating these guys to submission. We're just going to put our foot down on the pedal and go fast break football and try and just go deep and go vertical and get on top of these guys as quick as possible. I just think they had a different kind of game plan against Philadelphia. And for Pittsburgh, honestly, playing that kind of smash-mouth football, that's fine. But that's they only had one sack after 3 weeks, and then last night you saw their pass rush start to step up. I think they need to just stay on the aggressor approach all the time and not try to be we're going to play percentage football and beat the other team.
All right, I want to get your take on Dallas yesterday. They got off to a slow start. Washington, the 49ers are ahead in that game, and it looks like, Cowboys unraveling. But what impressed you about the way they came back in that game and took it over?
Ezekiel Elliott just keeps getting more impressive by the week. After the first couple of weeks, you could tell that he was, even though he scored a touchdown in each week and he was did okay, you could tell he wasn't in sync with his offensive line. He'd get in front of his blocks in certain plays where he's running in front of his blockers instead of getting where he should be, or sometimes he wouldn't go fast enough into the block and it gives the defense time to close in. Now he's just completely in sync. And the thing is, Dallas came into last weekend ranked 6th in the league in my good blocking rate metric that measures how often an offense gives its ball carriers quality run blocking. And by the second half of that game, you could see they were every bit as good. They've not been a number one team in this ranking over the past couple of years because defenses have been able to sit back and do other things to them. I think they could push to number one by the end of the season.
Reports are coming out that Romo could be ready for Week 8 against Philadelphia. That would be after their bye week. Would KC Joyner switch to Romo when he's ready?
Nope. I would say if you've got Dak Prescott and he's playing as well as he's been playing and the team is playing as well as it is, you've got an insurance policy in Romo. And like we talked about last week, I make Romo the backup and make him a relief pitcher and say, hey, if Dak has a struggle and we need to get a comeback, we'll bring you out there and get you to have the comeback. But right now, if we've got a 1-2 punch of Prescott and Romo, we can match up quarterback talent-wise with almost any team in the league, whereas if we just go Romo and hope that Prescott doesn't lose what he has, we might not have that. So I play depth and keep Prescott in there.
What you see from Washington? I know they were sloppy. They went up 14-0, then almost handed the game away. I know there was a huge officiating blunder in that game, but should we start to feel that the Redskins are turning the corner and will be a factor in the East?
No, the only reason they beat the Giants, I wrote an article a couple weeks ago that said, it pointed out the litany of problems that they have. And it wasn't just Cousins. You could look across the board and see they had all kinds of problems. They came into last week, came into the game against Cleveland, ranked dead last in the league in good blocking rate allowed, meaning that their run defense allowed other teams. The other teams are getting good blocking on 51% of running plays. That's a horrible number. They didn't look good yesterday on the ground, and I still think they've got all the other problems. Just because you beat bad Eli in a game and you barely beat Cleveland, one of the worst teams in the league, just because you did that doesn't mean your season's turned around.
All right. What is wrong with Carolina?
I will be actually addressing that in an article for ESPN's Insider section later this week. Part of it is that they're trying, I think, to do too much Cam and not enough of the rest of the team, because Carolina came into last week ranked 4th in the league in good blocking rate, and they need to lean on the running game more. Yesterday wasn't able to because of the way the game flow went, but I don't think they've been leaning on the running game enough. And plus, they've got to protect that defense. I mean, Norman left, and I always thought he was a bit overrated in Carolina. I thought that he's very good and he could shut down people, but he wasn't Darrelle Revis in his at his best season. But I mean, it's been a domino effect. They've got problems all across their secondary, and teams can throw on them, and they've got to lean on their ground game to get that defense and some help and to keep Cam from getting hit.
KC Joyner, ESPN.com, NFL Insider here, and Falcons. We got to start. I mean, they were 6-0 last year at one point. Do we got to start taking them seriously though this year? What makes us think that we should buy into them now if we should?
I still want to see how they do later in the season because, again, they had that great start last year, like you said, and then they faltered. Their run defense is not as good as it should be. I still think their pass defense is hit or miss. They've got a great running game. I mean, they've got the 1-2 punch, and they were third in the league in good blocking rate and probably will be first in the league after this week, or if they're not first, they'll be right up there. So they can run the football. They can throw deep. You also have to be concerned, though. Julio Jones has had some durability question marks in the past, and he's had these fantastic starts. And the thing is, if something happens to him and he doesn't have that kind of game, or those kinds of games down the stretch, who do they turn to for the passing game? I mean, they were able to do it against New Orleans, but they only face New Orleans twice a year. That's the worst defense in football. So I'm curious. I still want to see if they've got Plan B if Plan A doesn't work.
The Bills, they were the laughing stock. They were buffoons. You released your offensive coordinator when your defense gave up almost 40. They shut out the Patriots. They beat the Cardinals last week. Are the Bills getting the last laugh?
They played a Cardinals team who I was talking to somebody in the league about this yesterday. They played a Cardinals team that has a bad issue with the quarterback. Palmer might not be, and now he might not even might not even play this week, and he's banged up. But you could see he may be hitting the wall, and he's not what he used to be. And then you play New England with the 4th-string quarterback or third-string quarterback who's banged up and things. And New England's just not, they're too banged up and things, so they can only use smoke and mirrors for so long. So I'm not sold that Buffalo's turned things around. I think this is a short-term improvement, and you have to see more out of them because still, without Sammy Watkins, eventually teams going to be able to slow them down and say, hey, you've got to beat us another way because they don't have any vertical game at all with Watkins out of the lineup.
Hey, what impressed you about the Seahawks?
Russell Wilson's back. Their running game is really good. Their defense is back to where it was. Their issues have been injury related, and they have this approach where they want to coach up their offensive line, and they think we don't need to have a lot of talent, and it takes time if you're going to coach up your offensive line. It takes time things to gel. They were 24th in good blocking rate coming into this game, but it looks like they're going to, that coaching up their offensive line and getting Wilson healthy and getting some of the other players healthy. I think you're going to do like last year, a bad start and have a great finish. Remember, Ross could come back too here in a couple weeks.
Talking with KC Joyner, Week 4 in the NFL, almost in the books. We'll look at tonight's game in just a bit. Impressed with the Raiders going on the road?
Would have been more impressed if they would have closed the game out. I'm still not so sold on their defense. It's playing better. Smith made a really good play yesterday late in the game that he's had a really bad season. So if he gets back to playing to his level and they get Amerson playing to where level he can, they can get that secondary to play better. That's gonna be the thing because they've got some tough passing game matchups. And if that secondary keeps playing at the level that it's shown at times this year, they'll be okay. But if the secondary doesn't, it's going to be too many shootouts.
All right, we're going to dive into the Lions a little bit later when Casey joins us on Thursday. But a mess yesterday against a Bears team that's been just beaten up, battered, and the Bears win that game. What's that say about Detroit? They've got one player in the passing game. The rest of their passing game isn't that good. They were 25th in the league in good block rate coming into Sunday. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball at all against Philadelphia. I think it's going to be a total one-dimensional offense. And if they get in a one-dimensional offense and Philly plays the kind of pass defense that they can, like they did against Pittsburgh and things, I think Detroit's going to have its hands full. All right, we'll dive into that game a little deeper later on in the week. Broncos, I got to be honest, I didn't think the Broncos would be this dominating team. The defense seems like it's even better than it was a year ago. They lost some key pieces. I thought that'd be a problem. The quarterback situation, Simeon gets hurt. We saw Paxton Lynch yesterday step right in. So what do we think about the Broncos? And what does it say? Tampa, we thought Tampa was turning the corner. Now Dirk Cotter's coming out saying he's got concern about Jameis Winston. It seems that is a mess in Tampa Bay. That was supposed to be a team taking a step forward. Yeah, Winston still takes too many bad decisions. He makes too many bad decisions. He was last in the league in that category last year. Bad decision being when a quarterback makes a mental error that leads to a turnover opportunity for the opposing team. He's done almost as badly in that metric this year. They just don't have the kind of team that can have a quarterback take those kinds of chances. They may have the worst set of safeties in the NFL. Their cornerbacks aren't that much better. The Denver came in there and won. It wasn't surprising, but
Tampa Bay couldn't even make it close and couldn't even do anything because they've got some pieces on offense. They should have been able to put up some kind of points, and they didn't. Their running game isn't near what it should be. And Sims, by the way, has done well at times, but their running game is just been abysmal this year. So they're a team. Yeah, they're like the Jaguars. Between them and the Jaguars, they might be the two teams that are playing more below their talent level than any other team in the league.
We asked about Carolina. What's wrong with Arizona?
It comes down to Palmer. I think Palmer's hit the wall. I think he's not. He's always had bad decision rate problems. He's always been terrible in that metric. His vertical game hasn't been as good this year. Now, part of that is that John Brown's been missing him. He showed up yesterday. He had a really good game, and you've got Fitz, but Fitz is more of a. He's more of a dink and dunk receiver. I'm going to call him a dink and dunk receiver, but he's not your vertical threat anymore. He's a really good receiver, but he's not a stretch-the-field guy. But with Floyd out and if Brown is hit or miss, that it causes some issues. But I think a lot of it is Palmer, and they need to be less of a Palmer-centric offense. They need to be less of a vertically inclined offense because teams are starting to take that part of their offense away, and when they do, Arizona doesn't have plan B. KC
Joyner is with us. We're looking at Week 4 of the NFL, and, a lot of weird games yesterday. You look at the fact that Arizona lost at home. Carolina, the two teams that played the NFC Championship game, the defending NFC champs and then the runner-up, are both 1-3. You had the Patriots lose to Buffalo. I thought there was some more surprises in the week. And you look at the Colts at 1-3. I think the writing's on the wall now that Andrew Luck just can't carry that team, and he's got nothing around him. I mean, you're in London. I know it's a home game for Jacksonville, but to lose to Jacksonville, they couldn't stop anybody. I mean, it's a shame that we're just watching Luck's prime years be wasted here.
That's true. Jacksonville, by the way, they had played as far below their talent level. I mean, you could see in the first 3 games of the season, they were just going through the motions. It was at times it was terrible. You could see they were by far the worst in the league in good blocking rate. And a lot of it had to do, you'd see players just, even just kind of giving a push block. It was awful. But I kind of figured they would have a turnaround game because they always play Indianapolis well. It's something about that divisional matchup that really gets them to step up. But, yeah, I mean, the Colts for years, they kind of reminded me of what the Dolphins used to do with Dan Marino. Dan Marino was so good that for a few years that the Dolphins could say, hey, he can erase. We got problems in our secondary. Well, we'll just have Danny throw the ball some more. Hey, we done a running game. Danny will throw the ball some more. Eventually, that having your quarterback throw the ball some more can only erase so many weaknesses on your team. And Indianapolis just has too many weaknesses for Luck to be able to erase them all.
All right, KC Joyner is with us. Let's look at tonight because there's a big game for the Giants because Dallas 3-1. They already know Philadelphia is going to be undefeated. Washington's now on their heels. What do you think about the Giants against Minnesota tonight?
I'm going to be curious if Minnesota throws the ball because they've got Diggs and they've got Rudolph. They've got some players they can throw the ball to. New York is down to a third-string free safety. They are banged up at cornerback, and they've got a really banged-up secondary. And Minnesota has not run the ball very well, so I'll be curious if they're going to cut Sam Bradford loose. If they do, and the Giants don't find a way to stop it, because Bradford, as we know, as we've mentioned many times on this show, second half of last season, he led the league in vertical yards per attempt. He can throw the ball deep, so we saw what he did a couple weeks ago against Green Bay. If they cut him loose and New York can't can't stop that passing game, I think Minnesota could get out to an early lead, and New York will want to turn the game into a shootout, but you can't do that against the Vikings.
Minnesota, on the other hand, as we know, very good defensively, maybe the best in the league. Do they even need a big offensive effort tonight?
They don't need one, I don't think, because New York, Minnesota, by the way, besides getting a pass rush, which they got 8 sacks against Carolina last week, and picking off passes, they're very good at that. Besides that, they're very good at getting teams to make bad decisions, making quarterbacks make bad decisions. Throwing fronts into a quarterback, they misread things of that nature. Well, they've got Eli coming off of a bad Eli week, and Eli can have games where he has tons of bad decisions. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Minnesota try and get some things mixed up, because I think New York realizes if we don't get an early lead, this matchup is not conducive for us. And I think so early in the game, if Minnesota can get Eli and make a mistake, that might turn the thing around.
How's Minnesota deal with Beckham?
I think that you can look at his history, and Beckham, he's a one big play kind of guy. So I think it's just a matter of fine. He's going to catch the stuff underneath. Let him catch the stuff underneath, and if he does that, let him catch 10 passes underneath. Just do not give him the over the top stuff, and they're very good at stopping that. So the only thing is does he win 50-50 balls? But they've got Xavier Rhodes, who's really good, and I think Beckham maybe makes one big play, but I don't think he makes enough for the Giants to win the game.
A couple storylines as we get out of Week 4 now. Who's better quarterback for Chicago, Hoyer or Cutler?
Hoyer. I don't think Hoyer is great, but we've seen what Cutler's ceiling is, and Hoyer seems to use more of the offense. And I just think that I think also having Jordan Howard under center too, it's kind of unfair, or Jordan Howard in the backfield, because Howard's playing much better than Langford did. So I think that's part of it's helping him. But I think I would see where Hoyer's ceiling is. I mean, we think we know where Hoyer's ceiling is, but I want to see where it is in this offense, because you remember John Fox. He took Jake Delhomme and went to a Super Bowl with him, and I don't think Hoyer's necessarily at Delhomme's level, but I don't know that we've seen his ceiling yet, and I think Fox will find that out.
Yeah, they got some similarities there, both kind of tough journeyman type of guys. How about Denver? Lynch comes in yesterday. Simeon's banged up. What'd you see from Paxton Lynch?
About what you'd expect to see, but it's funny. I don't know how much to grade him based on that matchup, because there's not a quarterback in the NFL that can't put good numbers against Tampa Bay's defense. So as much as I liked Lynch managed the game yesterday and such, I wouldn't put him up at Simeon's level yet, because he hasn't done it at a stronger level of competition. So I'd want to see how he did against a better team before saying I might switch.
If you're Todd Bowles, are you considering a QB switch?
9 interceptions in 2 games, and mind you, Fitz is making a bunch of bad decisions. He's making bad decisions left and right, and he has a history of that too. This is not just there can be times when even Tom Brady or Peyton Manning would have games where they make a couple bad decisions. You just chalk it up, and obviously Fitzpatrick isn't that, but he's been terrible on that metric in the past. If I'm them, I'm at least considering, or let me put it this way. I want Ryan Fitzpatrick to possibly consider that I'm thinking of benching you, because you've got to stop making those bad decisions. There's no question about that.
KC Joyner, week 4 of the NFL here, as we got the Monday night game tonight. Obviously, looking at the NFC East here, Philadelphia is better than people thought. I think Dallas, without Romo, is a surprise. I mean, because they have been, 1-13 in his 14 games that he's missed. Washington was the division champ, and they started off 0-2. And the Giants have looked much better on defense at the quarter pole of the NFC East. And I know Philadelphia was off, and I know New York plays tonight, but kind of give us an overview of what you see from the NFC East through 4 games.
I think Washington's still going to stumble. They got too many problems. They have too many things that are going wrong for them. And again, 2 matchups are bad Eli, and a great matchup mask some of those problems the past couple weeks. I think they have issues. They to me are still at this time the 4th place team. Not just now, but I think that's where they'll finish. They'll be last in the division. The Giants. The injuries are going to start piling up on defense, and I think they're still a little too thin across the roster, so I think they're probably the 3rd place team. So between Dallas and Philadelphia, if you ask where things are right now, I like how Dallas looks, but again, if Carson Wentz keeps playing as well as he has, or even close to as well as what he's been playing, he's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott right now, and if that's the case, I think Philadelphia gets the edge.
All right, they'll be back in action, of course, right here on 97.3 ESPN this Sunday at 1 against the Detroit Lions. And you can listen to the Giants and the Vikings tonight, Monday Night Football here on 97.3. You'll be able to hear more about the Week 5 games, and we'll dive into Eagles and Lions on Thursday when KC Joyner joins us at 3:05. Thanks, pal.
Appreciate it, man.